Okay, go ahead.
The year is approximately 1924, and I was a very young child, probably 5 or 6, maybe 4, 5, no, 5 or 6, and we were living in this house.
Where?
Can't see.
Where?
Oh, in Memphis, Tennessee, Morningside Park, Memphis, Tennessee. That home is the home. My father was so excited to have a daughter after 2 boys that while Mother was in the hospital, he purchased this house for her. And she came home in the ambulance to a new home, and this was it. And, and this is a record of my first prayer. And my father was frantically looking around the house for his keys and could not find them. So all of us wanted, he said, well, look, he said, now I'll tell you, you children, look for my keys. I have to have them. And he said, I'll tell you what, I'll go to the office and I'll bring back a kite, the finest kite I can find, or the one that finds my keys. Oh, that overwhelmed us. So I wanted that kite so badly. So I went into Mother's dressing room, closed the door, got down on my knees, and that was my first prayer that I recall. My first real begging of the Lord to do something for me. And I said, oh Lord, let me find those keys so I can get that kite. And I walked out of there, and I walked almost straight to the area where the keys were. The Lord answered that little old dumb girl's prayer, and I've never forgotten it. It really changed my heart. And now the rest of this is about our summer vacations. The minute school was out, within a day of school letting out around the 1st of June, we were packed in trunks, and the trunks had already been shipped ahead of us, and we went, first of all, in 18 to 1928, we went to Lake Chateaugay. That's on a lake in upper New York State, and very remote. And we were on the side of the lake that had no electricity, so we were in a big lodge type of house, right on the water, remote. We had no neighbor in sight, but we loved it. And we went there, and when we arrived, we would get in a motorboat, and the gentleman there that took care of the property would take us across the lake. And well, sometimes my father was with us at this time, sometimes he wasn't, but always Andrew Valentine, the black man that served my family for 30 years. And he was with us. And when we arrived at the lodge, he and my father and I would go inside. None of my brothers wanted to do it, nor would Mother. Go in to run the bats out. There were bats all in the house, plus sometimes a couple of big black snakes. And they would take care of the black snakes, and I would help fan the bats out. And Mother would stand out there with a scarf around her head screaming. But anyway, it would be all clear, and we'd go in and we enjoyed. Lake Chateaugay was just a wonderful place. And we had, of course, no electricity, so we had, in the back of the house was a deep pit lined with sawdust. And the workmen that lived on the lake year-round would cut when the lake froze over, they would cut squares of ice and put them in the pit with layers of ice and sawdust and ice and sawdust. And that ice would last us all summer long in our ice box. We didn't have refrigerators in our ice box, and it kept everything chilled and nice. And that was called the ice pit. And then across the lake was Miss Dewing's dance camp. She was out of New York City, and it was in the time when the eurythmic dancing was becoming very much in vogue. And that was this interpretive dancing, where you did just dance to the music any old way that you felt urged to do. And Mother and I would go, and my little sister was too small, but we would go across twice a week to this dance camp. And you had on these little silk dresses that just hung to your knees, perfectly plain, straight hanging. You were barefooted, and you danced on the grass to a Victrola music, classical music, and you would dance interpretive dancing, and she would show us certain exercises to do first, and then we would dance. I like that, but we had to go in and have lunch while we were over there, and they cooked vegetables only, and Yankee way, where they were not very tasty, no seasoning, very little cooking, mostly is to me raw. But I hated those vegetables. I didn't like vegetables anyway, and that was just a horror to me. But I had to eat them. They made me eat them, and that was the only bad part of the day. But I loved the dancing and the boat ride over and everything, and being with other young people and friends. And then we go back to the Hampton one night. Oh, also, our nearest neighbor on our side of the lake was Dr. Trigant Barreau. I had a book, and I should hold it. I have a book that he wrote. He was the first practicing psychiatrist in New York City. And he held, at his camp, he brought his student doctors as well as his patients to his camp. And he had the first group therapy. This was back, I mean, several years ago they started talking big about group therapy. My goodness, this was back then, 80 years ago he was doing group therapy on this lake. But we were kind of amused because I have a letter. Mother had conferred with him and written a letter, something complaining about Graham, my oldest brother's behavior. And she wasn't accustomed to managing boys. And he wasn't perfect and obedient, and she couldn't manage him, and she thought something was wrong with him, and she wanted to know if he had to have psychiatric care. And I had the letter where Dr. Barreau wrote back to her and said, "Dear Mrs. Smithwick, I fear that the trouble is not with your son, but with you." And he said, "I think you're the one you have to study your reaction to his being a boy." So that was a rude awakening, you might say, to my mother. And then one time, being bored at the camp, they played bridge and they read and they listened to music and talked and things like that. But one time, the women that were visiting there with us, some cousins, decided to play a joke on the men. So it was dark, and we had nothing but lantern lights. We didn't have any bright lights of any kind. And so my youngest uncle, who was probably 14 at that time, or 15 sometime, he was a young boy, and then my brother Graham, they dressed them both up as girls. They dressed, the mother was supposedly, my uncle became the mother, and Graham became the daughter. And they came around to the front door after being well coached by all the women, and started crying and sobbing, and "Is anybody home? Can somebody help us? We're lost in the woods, and we're hungry." And all the men got excited and jumped up and became very manly and wanted to help and take care of them. And the women were back there snickering and laughing and about to die. And the boys, young boys, carried it off perfectly. They were all, my uncle had a scarf around his head to hide his short hair, and Graham did too, so that they could just look like girls and all this makeup on. And they looked real humble in that twilight and real pitiful. And of course the men were utterly furious when they found out that they had have joke played on them. So that was pretty much the different things that happened at Chateauguay. And that was about 1929, I guess, really, or 30, that we didn't go back there anymore. So then after that, we went to Waynesville, North Carolina. That's near Asheville.
Okay, let's